Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. How are you doing on this amazing St. Patrick's Day? I hope you have your green on. Happy St. Patrick's Day. We have an Irish eVTOL to usher in this great holiday. I recognize it is not symmetric, but it's good enough. We got an Irish eVTOL. I'm Danielle McLean. I'm the founder and CEO or executive director, whatever you like to say, at HYSKY Society. Most of you know who I am, so I won't spend time on that. So what is HYSKY Society? HYSKY is a 501c3 nonprofit committed to decarbonizing aviation and aerospace with hydrogen. We welcome and unite innovators in eVTOLs, advanced air mobility, fixed wing aircraft, lighter than air, WIG vessels, wing and ground effect, drones, UAVs, spacecraft, and anything else you can think of. If it flies and uses hydrogen, it's part of our vision. Our mission is to decarbonize flight with hydrogen by building a connected ecosystem. Keyword, ecosystem. That's why it's purple. Our vision is zero carbon flight powered by the hydrogen value chain ecosystem. That is you all. Let's talk a little bit more about that ecosystem. So to fly with hydrogen, you have to have hydrogen. So in that ecosystem, it includes hydrogen production. It also includes the transport. I really probably need to change this to pipelines because people think I'm talking about trucking, hydrogen trucking, but I'm not. I'm talking about like logistics of hydrogen, getting the hydrogen from A to B. So we have production, we have logistics or transport. We also need infrastructure, some kind of refueling. We need onboard storage. We need fuel cells. And then, of course, we need the aircraft itself. So if you fall into any of these categories, you are part of the hydrogen ecosystem. Yes, is everybody seeing and hearing me okay? And do you see my slides okay? Put a 1. Okay, awesome. I should have asked that first. Thank you, thank you. So speaking of that hydrogen aviation ecosystem, daily I am asked by somebody to introduce them to somebody else that I know. And we've been asked at least 100 times to build this ecosystem, to build this database, to build this database. So we've started building it. And if you would like to be listed in this database, if you're looking for a product or service, or you're selling a product or service related to that ecosystem, then go ahead and complete this form. And I will stick the link in the chat. And I'm also going to complete it with you all so that I know how long it takes. So let's do it together. So click that link. You can't copy it. You have to actually click it. And Angela, could you keep reminding people as well who are just joining? They might be wondering why they can't hear me.
Yeah.
Because thank you. I'm filling out the form so that I give you all enough time to fill it out. So if you're just joining us, we are creating a hydrogen aviation ecosystem database. And if you click the link in the chat, you can join that database. I'm really excited about this. And this will be launching by the end of the month. Yeah, if you're joining, we are creating our hydrogen aviation ecosystem.
So Danielle, we have a question. What should they enter if their website is not yet ready?
Oh, Is it a mandatory? Just put HYSKY's website or something. Yeah. Or you could put maybe your LinkedIn profile. I think any kind of link will suffice. Great question.
When they failed it March 31st.
Okay, I have submitted it. So hopefully you all are getting close. I'll give you a couple more seconds in case you had the issue about the website. So yeah, if you don't have some of the information, just put some kind of link. That way people can find you, we can find you. Okay, awesome. So moving on. So I've told you about HYSKY Society. Now I'll tell you a little bit about HYSKY Monthly. So HYSKY Monthly is what you're at right now. It is one of HYSKY Society's programs, and it's a series of free educational hydrogen aviation webinars. Every month we have new distinguished speakers that present, and it's for anybody that's interested in hydrogen aviation. We meet on the third Mondays of each month, and we have hundreds, if not thousands. I actually need to do the math because I think we're in the thousands of hours for free on YouTube of expert hydrogen aviation videos. And I'll remind you, HYSKY is a nonprofit. We don't have VC funding. We're not funded by the government. We rely on grants and donors, private grants and donors. But there's one thing that you all can do to support us that is totally free, and that is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. So that is like the one thing that you could do that would help us so much for free. Once we get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, we can do all sorts of cool things, and we're about halfway there. So please hit that link. If you get an error, it means you're already subscribed. But just click that link that I just put in there. It takes 1 second. Go subscribe. We also have really cool podcasts, Dr. Martine Rothblatt, Dean Kamen. There's all kinds of nuggets on our YouTube channel. Like, you won't find anything else like it anywhere. All right, so now let's just talk quickly about why hydrogen, especially for things that fly. So I'm going to use a case study on advanced air mobility. I also recognize the asymmetry in this one, but I like the picture. It demonstrates the use case for advanced air mobility and eVTOLs. This case study is applicable to drones, anything that flies compared to flying with a battery versus hydrogen. Okay, so I'm using an eVTOL in this, but same logic applies to a drone. So first I need to say this is beta down here. No shade to beta. I love beta. It was the only picture I could find of an actual eVTOL charging that wasn't a render. So this is no shade to beta. I just needed a real picture. But battery-powered eVTOLs, what's good about them? They can fly over traffic. That's great. They can fly about 60 to 100 miles. That's okay. If I want to fly from Houston to San Antonio without stopping to charge, I can't do that. For me, that's bad. I'm using Houston to San Antonio because that's something that I want to do often. I'm in Houston. I also want to go to Dallas or Austin from Houston, but I would have to stop and recharge. So there's Mr. Musk judgingly looking down at the beta, which is charging faster than most, but it still takes a while to charge. And I don't want to stop and charge. So kind of what that looks like, well, let's say this first. Hydrogen can extend the range a lot. Why that's important: when you can extend the range, you don't have to stop to recharge. This opens up city-to-city travel, life-saving flights that average 300 miles, regional air mobility, which is going from city to city, and emergency search and rescue. Think floods and hurricanes. So this is a great visual of what hydrogen allows you to do. Like I said, you can replace this eVTOL with a drone or a fixed wing aircraft. If you're looking at going, 300 miles, or you can trade out your distance for time and look at endurance. If I'm going 300 miles, I have to stop and recharge at least twice with batteries. On the other hand, if I'm using hydrogen, I can go from A to B, 300 miles on one fuel tank on a fuel cell with a full tank of hydrogen. That was hard to say, but I can go without stopping from A to B. So that allows me to go to Dallas, go to Austin, go to San Antonio, and I don't have to stop and recharge. I like that. So this is the current state. As far as I know, I just updated this morning. If I've left somebody out, please let me know who I've left out. But these are all of the companies that I'm aware of that are developing hydrogen powered aircraft. This includes drones, fixed wing, eVTOLs, wigs, everything. So let me know who I've left out. I'm going to have to make this a bigger slide eventually. But this is the current state of hydrogen aviation. And all of these aircraft are going to need hydrogen. Where are they going to get hydrogen? That's where HYSKY comes in. HYSKY's role is to bridge the gap. HYSKY was on there. Thank you, Dan. HYSKY's right there in the middle. I wouldn't forget, John. But yeah, they're there. It's okay. There's a lot on there. I know, at least I'm like, wait, I forgot Joby. And then I'm like, no, Joby's on there too. But yeah, so where are they going to get hydrogen? That's where HYSKY comes in. HYSKY's role is to bridge the gap between hydrogen and aviation. And so you see all of these aircraft on the right, they need hydrogen. And then you see this apparatus on the left. This apparatus, I'm calling it for lack of a better word. I don't know what it's technically called, but that's a render, but this thing exists in real life. And it literally makes hydrogen out of thin air. It's being deployed by the Department of Defense right now. There's a working prototype actually working in Hawaii, and it's powered by renewable energy. It's completely off the grid. It absorbs hydrogen from thin air and then electrolyzes it, and that can go to refuel an aircraft. And you might say, well, that's not going to make enough hydrogen to fuel, an eVTOL. Well, you can scale it. It's modular. You can use as many, and you don't need any infrastructure. This thing comes on a trailer. Sounds interesting, right?
Got a question.
But let's save the questions so we don't cut into the speaker time, but we'll do questions at the end. Thank you. But if you want to learn more about this company, they will be presenting on Wednesday at the H2 Hub Summit. And these are some of the speakers and companies we'll see at the H2 Hub Summit. We have Odanada, a 30-hour drone, Sea Cheetah, a wing and ground effect. We have Rafael Russo from Joby. We have Nova Spark Energy, the one that's making hydrogen out of thin air. We have Mike Hirschberg. He's going to be talking about hydrogen being a game changer. We have the Green Hydrogen Coalition. So it is just really going to be a fantastic event on Wednesday. It is a 4-hour event from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's virtual, and we're almost sold out. And the reason why I say remember Joby is because I tell you guys this limited seating. And when Rafael Russo of Joby presented in January, we were at max capacity, and many of you were mad at me because you couldn't get in. So get your ticket, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to get in. And Rafael is going to announce something that has not been announced before, so you definitely will not want to miss it. But wait, there's more. You can get your ticket for 50% off if you use this code labeled LEYBOLD. And I am also going to do that together with you on my other screen. Actually, I'm going to do that in here so I can show you where to put the code in. Okay, so click this link. Let me put it in the chat. For $15, you are going to get 4 hours of hydrogen out of thin air, wing and ground effect hydrogen, hydrogen hubs, hydrogen eVTOLs, hydrogen drones, hydrogen in defense. It is going to be amazing. So click that link, and then once you get there, put 1. And then when you go to checkout, this little thingy right here that says add coupon code, that's where you're going to put, and I'll put the code in the chat as well, LEYBOLD. I don't think the it matters if it's all lowercase. It's not case sensitive, I don't think. So I'm putting in my code and I'll put my name. I apply my thing. Okay, there. Then it took the discount. So you have to type it in and then you hit continue and you have a little bit of tax. So if you did that along with me, you should be able to get your ticket for $15. Also, even if you're busy and you can't attend that day, you will get access to the recording. You will only have access to that recording if you purchased a ticket. So now is your chance to get $15 off. Like I said, and you won't have a chance to do this after. So even if you can't attend, get your ticket. If you're a sponsor, don't worry, you get a ticket. So if you are a sponsor or a speaker, you do not need to do that step. Special thanks to Leibold for being our title sponsor and providing us with this opportunity. Here's a glance at the agenda for Wednesday. And these little pictures right here, you really can't see them, but take a look at, did your manufacturer slide mention? No, I didn't mention Fokker Next Gen, so I'll need to. But speaking of Wednesday, we're going to talk about the Doge firings. We're going to have some people from the Defense Innovation Unit who are investing in hydrogen aviation. We're going to talk about hydrogen being game changer for eVTOLs. We're going to have a surprise presentation and special announcement from Rafael Russo from Joby Aviation. We're going to hear about hydrogen out of thin air. We're going to hear about this 30-hour hydrogen drone from Odonata. We are going to hear from Millennium Rain Energy, that hydrogen production without federal funding. And we're going to hear from Sea Cheetah, Wing and Ground Effect. And it's cut off here at the end, but we're also going to have a surprise guest that I can't tell you about right now. You will not want to miss that. And then these little pictures where it says raffle 1, raffle 2, raffle 3. These are, you can't see it, but I wonder if I'll just tell you. You'll have to trust me. Unless Angela can find the link and put it in there. But this is a Lego kit. I forgot how to say it. Norbert, if you're on, please say it for me. But it's a vacuum seal limited edition Lego kit. Leibold is giving away 7 of them, and I have one too. And we're going to do them together, not at this event, but at a different event. So if you want to get your kids or family involved, they say 21 and up, but I'm definitely going to do it with my 2-year-old grandson. I'll just have to watch him and make sure he doesn't choke. But we'll be giving away 7 of those. So that's going to be really exciting as well. So huge thanks to all of our sponsors. This would not be possible without you. Yeah, I need Nextero on there. Okay, now it's time for one of my favorite parts of the webinar where I'm going to stop sharing and we're all going to turn on our cameras and we're going to take a group picture. So everybody turn on your cameras. I need to adjust my view. Awesome. Everybody's coming online. So good to see everybody. We almost have a full group of pictures. Waiting on a couple more. I'll let you know when we're getting ready to snap the picture. I'll tell you, cheese, not quite yet. Go ahead and turn on. Doesn't even matter if you're in PJs. We don't care. I think 80% of us are working from home. Oh, yeah. I see you all. Ah, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. I'm loving this. All right. In 3, 2, 1. Say cheese and hold it. Awesome. We're going to do one. I think we'll do 2 more. I do miss Rishabh doing this. He's on vacation. He's much better at it than I am because my problem is I forget to save them. All right, we're going to do another one. In 3, 2, 1, say cheese and hold it. more for LinkedIn. Okay, 3, 2, 1, cheese. Awesome. Okay. That's enough of my spiel. Oh, here's just some of our, these are how amazing. Sorry, let me go back to sharing my screen. You guys don't know what I'm talking about. Thank you so much for the group photo. So here are some of our past group pictures. They're just a lot of fun and they really bring this to life. You know, it's hard to picture each other when we're all in this, virtual space. But now I will kindly ask that everybody go ahead and mute and turn your cameras off, except for our distinguished speaker, who is Mr. Edward Boyle. Edward Boyle is a seasoned leader at the intersection of aerospace, AI, and climate tech, holding a bachelor's in aerospace engineering from West Point and a master's in AI and automation from Stanford. With over 7 years of experience in advancing hydrogen and AI-driven solutions, he serves as Chief Strategy Officer at Stellar, formerly Sirius Jet, where he has built a family of companies tackling hydrogen storage, production, and integration across aviation and mobility sectors. Edward is also leading efforts to embed AI into onboard control systems, Starlink communication, and vertiport coordination to enhance aviation automation. He has spearheaded Stellar's partnership with Yale, UConn, and top research institutions on nanotechnology and hydrogen innovations. Additionally, Edward plays a key role in securing DOE and DoD grants and collaborates with U.S. Special Forces, the Air Force, and Army Futures Command on stealth technologies, leveraging his experience as a U.S. Army captain with multiple overseas assignments. Edward, the stage is all yours. Without further ado, please welcome Edward Boyle of Stellar Aircraft.
Hi, Danielle. Greetings, everyone. Glad to see we got a good turnout here with two presentations this week. So as Danielle mentioned, I'm heading up strategy for Stellar. I just lost the screen. Okay. Yeah, so we started in 2021. Alexei Popov founded the company and he stayed in stealth mode. This is the jet. We've got 28 fan jets on here, 8 of them up front on the canard, and 20 back on the main wings, the adaptive wings. So so an intro on the plane. You know, we came out of stealth mode about a year ago and did an engine test with our partners in Zurich. And I started talking to Alexei shortly before then, saying that we really needed to come to the US. The initial focus is on private jets, on these luxury jets, and for the military, and 75% of that market's in the US. So, and most of our fundraising will be here. So we started with the CEO jet and we added the Adventure jet last year. Those are 2 base models that fit 3 to 5 passengers. And we with the 3 passengers, we had to add a second liquid hydrogen tank to get us to Miami. I sort of felt that was critical. Flying 1,200 miles was sort of the base for a lot of private jet owners. The 3-passenger one is more of a 600, or the 5-passenger Adventure jet is more of a 600-mile range, which is still decent. That could get us to, you know, New York to Charlotte and most places in the Texas Triangle. But one thing we got hit up consistently on was liquid hydrogen. Special Ops was really interested, but they wanted to see some options to liquid hydrogen. So over the last 6 months, we figured out how to switch to solid state hydrogen. So I'll be showing some of that here. So we've just finished the TRL 5 level testing for that. And we believe that's going to, you know, potentially double our range. So I'm starting to talk about 2,400 miles. So this could be fantastic. This, as a crow flies, would be a a New York to Los Angeles flight. So some of the heart transplant, the organ transplant roles that Danielle was talking about and things like that would be perfect. Right now, they're constantly having to see how many hours the organs can be outside of a body before they get transported by a helicopter, a plane, and usually someone else in between it. So this 2,400 miles would be fantastic for us. So the original idea was to combine hydrogen and batteries together. So during the takeoff, we can, have the Tesla sort of launch mode for the first 40 seconds or so to get us off the ground with the batteries. And then as we transition, we'll just be flying off of hydrogen. And that we do have some CTOL versions where we might not use as many batteries, but we'll probably always have the batteries there to sort of stabilize the flow coming from the fuel cells. So the solid state breakthrough that we're talking about is potentially 2 to 6x gain versus gas or liquid hydrogen. So we've tested this. I don't know how many of you have used HydroSticks. So HydroSticks is something very small sort of capsule that a lot of the drones start with. So for some of our initial tests, we just took a HydroStick canister and we replaced it with our powder, and we were able to get up to 6 times what a lot of the drone users are using right now. And that's what our partner in Yukon is using. So we're going to deliver that to them as something to immediately extend their range. So the team is something that impressed me right from the get-go. Alexei's family company has been working with Antonov for almost 100 years on creating some of the best planes in the world. This AN 225 has something like 120 world records for the largest aircraft. It carries their version of Space Shuttle around on the back of it. It's down here. It has 6 huge turbines on it. So the president of Antonov actually came over and decided to join us as our aviation head. So he's been designing all these planes. He's come up with a medium size aircraft where we can potentially fit 19 people and still take off vertically. So he's a fantastic add to the team. And we brought over a sales team that had been selling Cirrus aircraft, and they got busy and sold about 1.5 million in non-refundable deposits that we took last year. So we're able to fund a decent amount of our development so far on that money, in addition to regular fundraising. And then our pilot team, we have some fantastic Apache pilots in the team. One was an experimental pilot with that, and another that's a FAA check pilot for United. So between these guys, we're going to be working on forming up our team flying out of Sikorsky Memorial here in Connecticut. So on my background, I've got an aerospace and automated manufacturing background. And also I've done startups in the AI space so far. So a lot of my work is looking at, messing around with the Jetson Nano platform from NVIDIA and seeing what a large language model on a jet will look like, and also what we can do in the area of supplementing FAA. One of the initial people that I pitched to was the co-founder of DocuSign, and that was one of his first reactions is if you're successful, you're going to blacken the sky with these, and FAA is already stressed to the limits. So how are you going to manage that? So we're looking at that now, and we'll probably partner with someone in that area. So my background in the military, a lot of it was on air bases. I did a lot of work with special weapons and the bunkers around those, and also jet fuel tanks. So as we go into talk to special forces and DUI on a lot of these fuel issues and the weapons issues that they have, I can speak to those from my time there. A lot of our work is based on partnerships right now during the next 3 to 4 years that it's going to take us to get FAA approval. So I'm trying to solve a lot of these problems that I know we're going to face with regards to having hydrogen on air bases or airports and also the storage issues and how to work well with eVTOLs and EV charging. So BMW has been very helpful on the design. We've done all the structural design, and BMW has come in and made it worthy of selling as a luxury jet. So they've done 2 designs for us so far, and the adventure jet that I'll get into is really pretty unique with a lot of the features that they inspired us with there. We're also working with Siemens. Siemens is building the world's potentially first green airport in Australia. And the team there has placed an order for 12 of the larger jets for that airport. So we're seeing how that evolves. The solid state H2 is a new partner that we've essentially spun off that we have a minority stake in. The goal there is to license the solid state technology to all sorts of other industries. So BMW Hydrogen has come in, and they're very interested in using that in their vehicles. Right now, they're looking at using mostly the Toyota Mirai powertrain in theirs, but switching in solid state for the gas is high potential thing that we could do with them. The partner on the fuel side is Sapphire Hydrogen. So they have a fantastic technology to develop 99%, up to 99% carbon-free hydrogen from natural gas. So that will be totally in sync with the whole Trump administration drill baby drill. We're locating methane in western part of Texas for -$3 a million BTU. So they're basically gonna pay us for our cost of goods in those situations. So the DOE research is right now we've got an $18 million grant in for some work that we're doing in conjunction with Yale. And UConn has a fantastic fuel cell. They've got a 70% efficiency fuel cell that we're working with them pretty closely with. So that could potentially be something that we would license, is their fuel cell combined with our solid state, and see if we could get up. I don't know if we could get a 30-hour drone out of that, but I think we could probably get past the 13-hour Guinness record there. So DoD SOCOM is definitely interested. They just asked us to come back once we're flying. So we should be flying in June with our first 1/3 scale model. And NATO in Europe is definitely interested in the hydrogen portion of it. So we'll be putting in for grants on all those projects. So the range, this chart is based on the liquid hydrogen. As we get closer on the testing and redo all of our engineering things, we'll see if we're actually going to get a double out of these. We're doubling the density of the liquid hydrogen with the solid state, but there's other gains there. So we'll just see. I mean, the main thing we did with liquid hydrogen was, when I said we have to go to 1,200 miles, we just put a second tank in, and that took away 2 seats. So we should definitely get those 2 seats back. So if we stay at these ranges, we'll go up to 5 passengers on the 1,200-mile range. But I believe we'll have an organ transplant one that can go 3,000 miles. So another thing was the speed is the team has been making jets forever, and they were pretty consistent about needing to hit 300 miles per hour to make most of these routes, competitive with people that are flying at maybe 500 miles per hour. So we believe the time that we save and not having to go up to Teterboro and deal with all the traffic and everything at a major regional airport can save us those 2 to 3 hours. Additionally, some of the initial people are planning on landing these at their property. So with them, we're selling them hydrogen generators. And that's where some of the idea of working with blue hydrogen, many people have natural gas coming to their house, so they could easily produce the hydrogen that way, as opposed to, having to install solar or use electricity to do the electrolysis with. So the goal is to get down to a retail cost of $2 per kilogram. So the process we're using is is targeted to get 90 cents levelized cost of hydrogen. So that's before the 60-cent subsidy that's available in the IRA bill if that doesn't get killed. So we could potentially be much lower than this, but we're planning on, being $1.80 or so. The cycle life of the storage is really high. Some people are claiming 500,000 cycles. We're sort of sticking with 50,000 cycles. So you compare this to a battery that might potentially need to be replaced 3 times a year. And there's a huge sustainability and cost savings here when you go to solid hydride. We also have a full plane parachute. That picture I showed at the beginning of Alexei, he had actually flown his private SR-22 from Portland, Oregon, all the way to Ukraine. And that plane, one of the reasons he bought it is as a full plane parachute. It was one of the first ones with a full plane parachute. So when you have rotors up above, you definitely can't use this. So this is one of the benefits of having a fixed wing design, is you can definitely have a full plane parachute. So these are the 3 models. We started with the CEO jet, and we initially started selling these. And then we went back to customers, and we had at least one customer upgrade. So this is a $6 million jet, and this is a $9 million one. So one customer immediately upgraded to this one. So this, we were potentially talking with Chris Hemsworth as being our brand ambassador here. We ran into him at FBO in Australia, and he was psyched about coming on in exchange for a jet. And then when we started dealing with CAA and everything, the deal got a little too rich for us. But the idea here is to be able to land on water. We have dust collectors on all the intakes, so this can land in a desert, go in all sorts of places that you would not take a helicopter. And then the express jet version, we would take out the seats. We have a medevac version with a stretcher in there and a crane and everything like that. So we've thought through these designs quite a bit on how each one would be used. So the innovation here is rotating the canard, and we actually change the shape of this wing on the backside. So there's a variable camber wing here that's maximizing the lift at every point of flight as you get into the transition here. So there's 3 existing patents on the plane. The design of the wing, the overall design of the plane, and the powertrain that are all pending. Or no, 2 of them are actually totally in the clear. One is pending. We have other elements like this proprietary cooling, which is really critical for the fuel cells and the batteries. And then we'll be swapping out the original liquid hydrogen storage with the solid state, which looks more like this. It's just much smaller in size. We have a lot of other elements that have gone into here that are in the proprietary knowledge base of both Antonov and FED. And a lot of those were not patented in the Soviet Union, but they're all sort of there for us to pick and choose from. So the solid state, this process has been around for quite a while. It's been used in satellite in space for probably 20 years now. But we made some key innovations on being able to fit much more hydrogen within the lattice structure of the magnesium and the titanium. And this fullerene that we use, the C60, is pretty expensive if you buy it off the shelf. But we've come up with a process of making that from recycled tires that's going to make the whole process much more affordable. Another thing we do is we use microwave and ultrasound to heat the metal hydride at the particle level, at the molecular level. So this is much more efficient than heating from the outside, like some techniques have been used in the past. So this is TRL5. It should be TRL7. We're going to use this in our flight in June, and we're going to start using this at some tests that we're doing at UConn and Yale right now. So the key advantage is this 150 kilogram per cubic meter boost that you get over liquid hydrogen, or 6 or 7 times over what the Mirai is using. And the other key that we have is people that have been using solid state to date are still down around this 10% absorption level that liquid hydrogen is at. And we've been able to get that to 20% so far, but we're pretty confident we can get that to 35, or our stretch goal would be get that to 50%. So what this means is for every kilogram that you have on board, this percentage would be hydrogen. So this is very key for aviation. So like I said, we're using the form factors that the drones are using right now. So we have another partner, H3 Dynamics, that sells a ton of hydrogen to many of the drone makers that have DoD contracts. So we're going in there and partnering with them to sell directly to all those drone makers as a first sale. So on the hydrogen production side, Sapphire Hydrogen is a group that came to me from Europe, and they couldn't get that many people interested in blue hydrogen in Europe. Everybody in Europe is buying quite a few of them are buying their natural gas from Russia, and they just want to produce their own on green. But in the States, the green H2 cost got totally blown out in California. I don't know if you guys have seen, but Mirai is now basically giving away a Toyota. It was priced at $55,000. Now it's $15,000, but you get a $15,000 rebate to buy this really expensive green hydrogen with, or get it from someplace else. But this is about 4 times probably the world average. It's much lower in Europe. So we're using 15 now as the average green. The levelized cost, the wholesale cost is 7.5. So this is sort of the bogey that we target. If you produce, so there's 100 million tons of hydrogen produced each year. It's not a new thing. It's been around for probably 30 or 40 years. So the big sticking point is only 1% of that actually has carbon collection units on top of it. So, there's not a huge push in the US to put those units on. They're very expensive, the $30 million. What our process does is internalize the carbon collection. So carbon collection is actually part of the way we generate the hydrogen. So we're pretty confident we can get down to this 90-cent level, or this would be 30 cents with this IRA credit if that stays in there. So the existing techniques, we're probably not going to go after these markets. These markets, 99% of them are going to be used by chemical processes. And these guys will not want to mark down their CapEx by how much we're going to provide it. So we're, in the industrial space, we're going after data centers with this. And we're getting a ton of interest from large private equity companies that are looking at that 2 to 4 year wait to get hooked up to the power grid. Additionally, we can sell this to solar plant manufacturers that are also looking at ways to get onto the grid. A lot of them have 2 to 4 year waits to be able to sell their electricity to the grid. So the main process is we're taking methane, CH4, we're combining it with oxygen and some water, and we're getting hydrogen. Plus we're getting steam, we're getting CO2 as steam, which we can actually sell instead of paying people to store underground. So this quite often can be used to push oil out of the ground and all sorts of things. So hopefully we won't be having to pay for our carbon. That will be a source of revenue. So the markets for Stellar Jet are, initially we're going after this private market where people will actually pay 10% deposits 4 years in advance. This is a very common thing when you roll out a new Gulfstream or the private jets. So, we get invited to present at the Palm Beach Boat Show and all sorts of places like that, right next to Zinger and all the hypercar markets. So we're actually able to sell these. We just need to get the flying prototype up and make another big launch. And then we have 600 million in pipeline right now. A lot of people in India love this. but the people in India are immediately asking us to go to 10 or 19 seaters. So this airline industry is just booming in India. And the same thing, a big resort developer in Bali came to us. And you know, Australia is a very large market for private jets. It's probably the fourth largest after Canada and the UK. We're getting a lot of interest out in Ohio, where Anduril and I guess Joby have set up manufacturing. So a lot of people want to put in vertiports out there and are talking to us about doing different plans out there. So the licensing is becoming a key part of our business. This might really kick in with the solid state, like way before we get the FAA. But the military and the first responder market, these guys will certify in up to 18 months. And an interesting thing that just happened with our 1/3 scale flying order model is that's essentially a drone. We have 60-kilogram payload, so we could put a light pilot in there, jockey. But a company in UAE just came in and wanted to place an order for 12 of the 1/3 scales as a drone. So we might have a big drone market in addition to, you know, building out the private plane. So as I mentioned, Dr. Loss is very good at scaling up these designs and being confident that we could still take off vertically on this. But some of these clients will be totally fine with these being CTOL. So we'll, you know, look at what we might take off of this if we don't intend to ever fly vertically. And might be able to save some weight and extend the range by just restricting to a CTOL as Beta did. Beta, you know, went with the CTOL with the side-by-side certification. The military is really interested in these. These are the dust collectors I'm talking about. These are on Russian helicopters. We don't have these on US helicopters. A lot of US helicopters could not fly into the northern part of Afghanistan where it was high dust situation. So a lot of this technology that the company has worked on Soviet helicopters will come over. The immediate benefit for military is not being able to hear the Black Hawk coming from, you know, a half mile away or whatever, gives everybody the heads up and starts having people lock heat-seeking missiles and things like that onto your helicopter. The small fan jets, these have all been sort of optimized for this configuration, is the diameter of the fan jets, and putting that many of them on there really helps disperse the sound over the entire wing. And the same thing with the heat is, you know, each of those electric motors is going to have a little bit of a heat signature, but dispersing the heat from the fuel cells and the batteries is going to be key. And we think we can do that, and we can add on to that. But, you know, this having this big JP4 turbine here at the top is something they're never going to get away with jet fuels powered helicopters. Another thing, you know, Alexei, being an aviator, knew the importance of having a pressurized cabin. This easily lets us get up to the 25,000-foot range, which is key for getting across the Alps. That's one of the main private flight routes in Europe. So be able to get over that range. And for missions, a lot of the people will, you know, the entire Special Forces mission will be flying 2-3 hours with oxygen on. That's not good at all for arriving at their mission in peak form. So they won't be doing that on the Stellar. So the medevac design is, you know, it's going to have a winch up here coming off the wing and probably have 2 berths within there. So the goal here would be able to, you know, get 600 miles out or 200 miles out, be able to load the patient and get them back to a health facility without having to do a recharge or a refueling there at that location. So the development status so far, we're at the TRL 5.5 stage. That will go up to the 7.5 stage once we're flying in June. The The drones, if we go that route and we really start selling those, we'll fast track this and get to TRL 9 pretty quickly without, each country has their own certification process for drones. The solid state, if we start licensing that to BMW, will also get accelerated to the 7 or the 8 stage pretty quickly. And then these DOE grants that we're working with Yale and UConn on will probably help us accelerate both the solid state and the Sapphire TRL process testing. So that was pretty much it for my planned part of the presentation. I can take questions now or show some additional slides.
Thanks so much, Ed. That was fantastic. Very cool to learn all of those things about Stellar. A lot of us have been wondering. Okay, so lots of questions in the chat. I'm gonna start from the beginning. And I think the first question that I saw, if this isn't the first one, forgive me. Kurt,
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, thank you. A couple questions. I'm interested in the solid state fuel that you're developing. So you're actually flying with a solid state hydrogen cartridge or generator or something like that, and you're producing hydrogen on demand from the storage media?
So there's two things. So solid state H2 is making this metal hydride container right here.
Yep.
So that's magnesium, titanium, and carbon 60. And we infuse that with hydrogen.
Okay.
And then when it's being deabsorbed, we heat that up with microwaves and use a little bit of pressure to get the hydrogen to come out of the solid form and feed the fuel cells right here.
Okay. And you're getting an energy density of maybe what, 6 times batteries, something like that?
6 times the gas, 2 times
Okay.
liquid hydrogen. Yeah,
Okay.
150 kilograms per cubic meter.
Okay, and last question I have, and I'll let you go with someone else. What power class fuel cells are you developing for your flight applications?
So right now we're using the same thing as everybody else, but
Okay.
this one that we're working on UConn with is going to go to the next level. It's going to be a 70% efficiency. So most of these are 45 or 50% right now, we're thinking.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thanks, Kurt. Excellent question. Just to, I think most of us in this audience know this, but the potential for metal hydrides and solid state hydrogen is huge. I think it's sort of the holy grail in this space. We had a presentation from a group you're probably familiar with, Ed, called HYMARC, HYMARC, I think is how you spell it. They're funded by, I want to say, Sandia National Labs. That was a few years ago, and the TRL level wasn't quite that far then, but we were really excited about that technology, as I'm sure many of the folks attending are. That was probably 4 or 5 years ago. So excited to hear more, and don't be surprised if most of your questions are related to that. This next one, though, is not. It's John. Is that John from Odonata?
Yeah, that's right. Hi, Daniel.
Hi, John.
Yeah, so my question was that, I think everyone is aware of Lilium's concept, and for sure your propulsion approach is very similar to Lilium's with those tiltable small fans, which on the downside leads to a huge disk loading and very high power demand. You also mentioned those 1.8 megawatt, and for sure one of the reasons why Lilium went bankrupt is also that on the technology side they had a lot of trouble on the power side, and why did you decide to go with this propulsion concept? That's what I'm interested in.
So the CEO originally approached Lilium, maybe 3 years ago or 2 years ago, and he described to them, I don't know if anybody saw that paper that came out. There was a really good academic paper where they went through each one of the eVTOL designs and mathematically calculated how many miles they could fly. And Lilium's was like 5 miles, and they debated it. But if you looked at the weight of the batteries they were putting in there and how they were surrounding the passengers with the batteries and everything. So the CEO originally offered to provide this powertrain to Lilium, and they flatly refused. They said, no, we're fine with batteries. Battery technology is improving so rapidly, we're going to be able to do it. So the key is getting rid of that weight, the dead weight of those batteries that you're flying with as soon as they're discharged. We actually recharge these batteries as soon as we make the transition and have those available. So the key is getting rid of that weight. This is a very light aircraft.
So in the end, it's going hybrid with hydrogen for sure. The batteries for the vertical takeoff. So yeah, okay, I got that. Thank you
Which
so
is
much.
what Zero Avia does. Zero Avia always has batteries alongside the hydrogen, and they have a ton
Yeah,
of
sure.
patents on it.
Yeah.
You kind of need the batteries to stabilize the fuel cells and give you that, that fast acceleration when you want it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Could you talk to the disc loading, Ed, a little bit?
Yeah, I can field some of those questions with the engineering team if there's specific things about it. But these guys have been designing planes like this, and this wing design with fan jets is not new. It's probably 20 years old. So there are planes flying with this design, not this same size, but my guys are constantly looking at things like that when they try to optimize the diameter of these fan jets.
Thank you. Yeah, it's kind of been a thing that the eVTOL community has discussed often for years, the small rotor size of the Lilium jet. And so we'd love to have somebody get back to us on that, and kind of hear your all side of it, because it's been, people have said, experts have said that the rotor size, and not to criticize your design, but that the rotor size, the small rotor size, would cause too high of a disc loading. So please take that back to the engineering team and give us an answer, and we can like write about it or something.
Yeah, no, one of the things we definitely looked at was, all the eVTOLs seem to be struggling with their FAA approval. From what we hear from our sources within that whole network is you have to have 30 to 45 minutes of divert capacity left in your batteries when you're getting ready to land. And so, in spite of all the disc loading and everything, if you're flying a super efficient plane, but you just don't have that when you come back to land, it's going to be a stumbling block. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how Joby does with the hydrogen. The 500 miles flight that they did on 40 kilograms or whatever they used was fantastic. So I mean, we might look at reducing the disc loading if that becomes an issue when we get into FAA testing, but the team is pretty comfortable.
Got it. Thanks. And by the way, the person that asked you that question, John from Odonata Aero, will be presenting Wednesday, so you can analyze his aircraft and have a chance to ask him questions as well. So yeah, make sure to attend Wednesday. Next up is Matt Moran.
First of all, Edward, thanks for the fantastic presentation. Very informative. Lots of information. My question is on the solid state hydrogen storage. I was wondering, you had mentioned you're looking at licensing opportunities. If there's anything that is shareable at this point in terms of reports or patents. Yeah, and then maybe a follow-up question in terms of how are you calculating that hydrogen density? Because I've looked into several of these technologies over the last several years, and it never seems to quite pan out. And and it usually has to do with what they're calling their density. If you've really cracked this nut with the numbers you're talking about, that's phenomenal. So anyway, just wanted to see if there was anything you could share in terms of doing some due diligence and potential licensing opportunities for that.
Yeah, I mean, this timing is fantastic. I didn't know if we're going to have reached a TRL 5 in time for this presentation, so I might have been more low key. But the CEO is jumping out of his skin. So I was just down in Austin at the Capital Factory and the South by Southwest conferences, and he brought all of these tests with him, super detailed tests. And so, yeah, as we sign mutual NDAs and things like that, we can share those with everyone.
Okay, thanks.
Awesome. I'm not sure if you know who Matt Moran is, Ed, but he's him and Anubhav Data are my go-to hydrogen experts. Matt Moran also has Moran Innovation, and he did a presentation for this group on hydrogen. He's worked with liquid hydrogen for many years, so he's expert. So thank you for that question, Matt. Next up, Mike.
Ed, thank you so much for this really insightful.
Mike, we barely hear you. What's up with your mic? What's up with your mic, Mike? You weren't muted, but it was just really quiet.
How about now?
Better.
I'm not sure. And how about now?
Oh yeah, amazing now.
Okay. I've got too many microphones hooked up to this stupid thing. I'm not sure which one was active. Hey, Ed, thank you so much for this excellent presentation. Really exciting. I had the pleasure of interviewing Alexei several times when the news first came out, and did a detailed article on the company at the time, and then was virtually there for the unveiling of the test that you guys did. It's ever since the beginning, it's been, the information coming out that's been put out has been very, I'll say very aggressive, like almost like unbelievable. So I think the community is very interested in hearing more and seeing more as you guys have test data or other information that that comes out, because it's beyond, I think, what most people think is, well, beyond what the general consensus is what's achievable with today's technology. So very, very exciting. You had said that the current fuel cell technology, I think, was at TRL5, or maybe it was the solid state hydrogen. So generally TRL5 is like I put it in here, validated in a relevant environment, meaning the prototype demonstrates repeatable and stable performance in a simulated or a real world setting. So that would tend to mean like and then you were saying like TRL7 with the prototype flight. So maybe you meant of a UAV sized. Sorry, it's a long leading question, but it seems like the TRL levels are a little bit forward.
By independent labs certifying that repeatedly had hit a specified level that's covered in the TRL level 5 report that we have.
And which independent lab?
So we're not revealing our labs right now, but we do so a lot of EU funding requires a lab of a certain certification level. So we went to all of them, and they're all really expensive. And so we finally found one that we could work with, and that's been our main lab. We might get a second lab to certify it if EU requires us to.
It's very exciting. Was that in that scale that was of the 1/3 scale prototype, or?
No. So the TRL7 flight will be in June. So that's a plane that we're building right now that we were planning on flying liquid hydrogen. And if everything tests correctly with the solid state, we'll swap out the liquid hydrogen for the solid state in that flight.
Okay. All right. Well, we're looking forward to seeing your progress.
Thanks much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mike. For those of you who don't know who Mike Hirschberg is, he's the former executive director of the Vertical Flight Society. He's now the chief of strategy. Vertical Flight Society is the kind of the nucleus of all things VTOL, including all of the eVTOLs. And I'm interested in that paper you mentioned, Ed, about comparing how far they would go. that sounds like something that would come out of Vertical Flight Society. And if it didn't, I'm curious who did that. I'd love a link to it. Mike will also be speaking on Wednesday at the talking about how hydrogen is a game changer for vertical flight. But Ed, I just have a comment. You know, I think we're all kind of shocked and excited and like a little skeptical because we've sort of been told so many times that metal hydride TRL wasn't ready. But me personally, I haven't really looked into it in about 5 years. But I will say, in your defense, over the last few months, 3 or 4 companies have reached out to me with, proprietary metal hydride technology. And I can't reveal too much, but I don't know if you guys are all working with the same company or if there's something happened technology wise that enabled these, because I haven't been approached by any solid state hydrogen companies until this year. And now they seem to be kind of trickling in kind of quickly. So I'll be curious to follow who the labs and the partners are, and if there are more than one company developing this technology, or if it's one. But it's giving me the impression that have we reached some kind of milestone with solid state hydrogen that is enabling this technology to come online? It's just a thought, not really a question.
So most of the solid hydride stuff started in space. So our main guy, our CTO for solid state, comes from that background. So he's worked on projects related to SpaceX and lots of LEO satellite projects where they've incorporated hydrogen. Most of them rely 100% on solar and batteries up there because they're, only in darkness for 45 minutes and things like that. But on the terrestrial side, GKN has a very big solid hydride project, which they sold off to Langley, a private equity group in Europe. So they're mostly focused on providing storage for solar plants. So this is pretty far along, but it's at this 10% level. And then Harness is another startup that I think Riverbend in Houston is funded. So they're producing really large, container level solid hydride to store energy at data centers. So these guys haven't progressed that much in the last 2 years. But yeah, if we could come in there with like 35% absorption or something, suddenly, a lot of people would probably be swapping out diesel generators or not waiting 90 weeks for diesel generators to put in hydrogen and hydrogen storage with fuel cells.
Yeah, or not have to worry about cryogenic tanks and just the dangers and safety issues. Okay, next question.
The drones are using solid state right now, just in a very small form factor.
Interesting. Very interesting. Well, I need to catch up on that. Next question is Richard Fu from Southwest Research Institute. Again, it looks like about solid state hydrogen. Richard, you're up.
Thank you so much for the very informative and exciting webinar. Like everybody else, I'm very curious about the solid state side of it because I haven't heard anything like that yet, and it's very exciting if it's really true to achieve a 35 to 50% absorption ratio, and it can be a game changer in both fuel cell, aviation, as well as the heavy duty automotive side also. So my question specifically is about what is the temperature required to diesel the hydrogen from the solid state, because based on, again, from what I understand, the low temperature fuel cell, it's going to be a little bit tricky to achieve the temperature if it's just a magnesium, I think it was a titanium iron. And then also, you mentioned about 70% efficiency fuel cells So that seems to indicate you may be using solid oxide fuel cell. So now you're operating at a much higher temperature. What is your startup time, if that's something you can disclose? And how fast can you also, like, absorb and essentially charge up the solid state?
So the initial tests that we hit this 20% level were very, very fast. So the reports have comparisons on how fast it charged compared to the Hydra stick, which we're using as our benchmark. So we in our reports, depending upon how public we get with those, we'll show all of the rates and all the science setups and the lab setups. But the idea with the and we didn't, I don't think we really used the microwave to achieve this 20%. So the microwave and the other techniques we're looking at are ways of getting from that first 20% level to the 30 or the 50. So it doesn't, so and I think we used probably like 25 bars of pressure. We didn't use much pressure. So original idea was to use up to 350 bars of pressure combined with the heat and the ultrasound to maximize the absorption ratio. So a lot of the initial tests are not using that right now, and it's looking really promising. But as you get closer and closer to this 35 or 50, it's like each incremental requires a lot more effort.
Okay, what's the outlet pressure you were able to achieve in the solid state?
So I think it's the same thing. It's very low pressure right now, but the plan is to use fairly high pressure. Not fairly high. I don't think on the plane we'll use 350 bars, but we're planning. We have two different versions of the cylinder right now. One is designed for 350 bars, and the other is probably like just 50 bars or something. But on the question of the fuel cell, that's a totally different project. That's Yukon. So Yukon is using SOFC, and it is going to have a big temperature issue. And so we're looking at the airplane design with them right now, and probably going to like 3D print a separate plane for them to have them go much further than what they're planning on. They're just using like a simple C-130 plane right now and using their fuel cell. But their fuel cell research is off the charts. When we went in there, we're like, and other people are looking at it. There's other people that already have potential licenses on it for vehicles and things. They wouldn't share the names, but we know they're big players.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you for that question. Great questions. Next up is Stefan.
Yeah, hi. I'm just interested in how long the hover time that you're proposing for this aircraft design. I guess with the 1.8 megawatts you mentioned, it's heavily buffered by the battery, not just by the hydrogen fuel cell. What sort of targets are you aiming for things like the winch activities, like you indicated?
Well, the CEO jet that we originally designed was not going to have any hover time. We just transitioned to flying. I mean, we could do that, the 90 seconds that we do on the takeoff, we could do that periodically throughout the flight. But then make sure the batteries are recharged. And we're not going to need 1.8 megawatts when we land. But yeah, the hover time on the CEO jet was very low. And that was the goal. Part of the goal with the adventure jet was to, when civilians go up there for exploring or something, they're going to want to hover over, wildlife in Africa or something. So the adventure jet is going to have significantly longer hover time. It's just going to have much shorter range. So we'll probably put more batteries in that version. And then all the military ones will be up for custom design. So if they've got a medevac mission that they want a specific plane for, and it's going to need to hover over a cliff or something or water to rescue people for up to 30 minutes, that will probably have quite a few batteries. So we'll start, running into the problems that Lilium did with the weight being a limiting factor.
Thanks.
Great question. Next up is Rory. Rory, are you there? Looked like you had a couple.
Yes, thank you. So Rory Feely, I'm an FAA test pilot. I specialize in eVTOL and hydrogen-powered aircraft. And I'm in that area. So you mentioned you're flying out of Sikorsky Executive, I think, in Connecticut. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Have you made your application yet to the FAA and even for your 1/3 size and to fly in June? Because that process is,
So we're flying, that flight will be in Slovakia.
Okay.
So we're doing the build in Slovakia right now. So I assume they have rights there and everything. But yeah, I would love to talk to you. I need more, people that have experience with the eVTOL, because all the fixed wing guys kind of freak out, and the helicopter pilots are like, yeah, I could probably do it, but there's going to be a big training curriculum that needs to be built out.
Yep, and training rules have already been published, so you can find those online, and I'll drop my email in the chat there for you to contact us.
Yeah, we're also looking at the new London airport. So New London Airport has a National Guard facility right next to it. So we're going to pitch the military that, hey, let's go in and, make that military base an island with its own, hydrogen, and do the airbase at the airport at the same time or something like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Rory. Always good to see you as well. And I would also encourage you, Ed, to on Wednesday to connect with Nova Spark Energy. They are the company making hydrogen out of thin air, which is also kind of a holy grail technology. So very little infrastructure required. You can put it at an airport or a hospital or anywhere. So I would definitely encourage you to look at them for a partner. Next up, we have Ryan. Yeah, Ryan, are you there? I could actually answer your question, Ryan, unless you want to, but I think the name of the company. Well, Ryan, are you here? I don't want to mess up your question. Ryan, jump in if I'm incorrect, but he says, to clarify, is solid state H2 the name of the company? I know it's not the name of your company, Ed. Your company is Stellar Aircraft or Stellar Jet. But
yeah,
is
so
there
solidstateh2.com is the website, and yeah, we're just starting to raise capital for that separately. So if anybody's interested in partnering there, or investors interested in that area.
So that's its own stand-up company?
Yep.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
And the same thing with Sapphire. Sapphire is a separate company under sapphirehydrogen.com.
Interesting. Okay. This is connecting some dots for me. Thank you.
Yeah, the CEO is not totally psyched about it. He wanted to keep it internally, and I'm just like, we can't sell products to the car industry and the truck industry and stuff from within Stellar Jet. We need a separate standalone company, and they should be able to raise money, maybe more money than Stellar can raise at this point.
Well, that solid state hydrogen, that is one I am very interested in. I'm also interested in the jet, but we've talked about solid state so many times on these webinars. Let's see, next up. First, I just want to make sure, Eric, Angela messaged me and said you had a question. I want to make sure I didn't miss your question. I can't remember if I called on you or not. If I didn't, then feel free to come on right now and ask your question. If you don't, Eric, then Michael Kramer, you are up.
Hey, Edward. Good talk, by the way. Very interesting. I've got a question about the weight of the hydrogen storage. Roughly how many kilograms are you holding? What you can share. I know some of this is probably proprietary. And then what's the weight of the hydrogen storage, including all the balance of plant, everything, refueling nozzle, everything, all the way to hydrogen on demand at the fuel cell?
Yeah, so this sort of design would be about 90 kilograms. And so hopefully we'd have, 40 kilograms, maybe it'd be 100 kilograms, and we'd have 40 kilograms of hydrogen in there. So that's sort of our base design. And yeah, that would be the approximate width of the airplane or the current design of it. And stack two of those on top of each other gives 80 kilograms of hydrogen. What was the other question?
The what's the way to the balance of plant, all the other stuff to make it work, the microwave systems and all the other stuff, the stuff that isn't the tank per se.
Yeah, so that's the goal with getting to the 35%, ratio is that 35% of the weight would be that. So yeah, then we'd be in a much better position than we were with the liquid hydrogen.
Thank
I
you.
don't know. We'll have to go through like a bill of materials for this now, because I just we're just sitting there with the H3 Dynamics guy that's selling these to drone makers right now, and the drones are going to be really sensitive to all these nozzles and everything. So we'll be going through that.
Thanks.
Yeah, and we'd love to have H3 on this on these webinars as well. They're doing some cool stuff. Anurag has a comment, not a question. Anurag, would you like to come on and say your comment? Oh, you also have a question too. A good question. If Anurag is not on still, I'll just say he said, oh, okay, great. Go, you're up.
Right. Well, excellent presentation. Absolutely excellent. In fact, I had been interacting with Dr. Urban of HYMARK for the magnesium and reduced graphene oxide. And I was hoping that, this is that somebody would come out with a solution, because unlocking hydrogen storage is unlocking the entire hydrogen value chain, basically. But my question is that, when we talk about C60, what is the refueling? One is the conditions of refueling. The other is how much time does that take, and what kind of technological solutions are required for it?
So we were planning on it taking 30 minutes to do 40 kilograms in a setup like this. But now, based on the first TRL5, they're saying it might be half of that. So that would be my goal as sort of a product manager, is not going over the 30 minutes. And so, applying more pressure, applying more temperature, or whatever we need to do to get that charging time down is going to be key.
Yeah.
But this using microwave was a big innovation here. I don't know how much that is going to be protected by the patent, but heating at the molecular level is pretty key.
Yeah, absolutely. No, excellent. I think, this kind of a solution would work for marine as well, and even for heavy transport. Because 35 to 50% is a very, very good number. And
Yeah,
I really do
I've
hope it works
been
out.
talking to Oman for a while, so Oman's pretty unique, and they're going to be out of oil in 10 years, So they're more motivated than anybody to figure out a way of shipping hydrogen. And so I've been talking to them about, and there are some designs. There's an Italian company that I think has been putting metal hydride inside boats already. And then you can power the boat with the hydrogen that you're carrying also. So
Yeah, exactly.
someone like Oman that wants to get their green hydrogen over to California and sell it for $36 is highly motivated for this sort of thing.
Excellent. A wonderful presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I echo everything that Anurag just said. I think his statement on unlocking the value chain was basically summarized how excited I am for this presentation. So thank you, Anurag, and great to see HYMARK and folks that are aware of that presentation and that work, because yeah, that was a really interesting one. We're at the last minute. And so, okay, Ryan, your microphone wasn't working. You can come on and ask your question if you're still here. While we're waiting for Ryan to unmute, I just want to tell you, Ed, that it was an absolute honor to have you here, and you did a fabulous job answering all of the questions. Our group does not take it easy on anybody, and you handled it very well. So congratulations for making it through the hot seat of HYSKY Monthly. I didn't tell you about that prior, but you did a really good job.
Oh, well, thanks very much. Yeah, please reach out. I'm at any of these companies. Edward, usually ed.boyle at Stellar is the best place to get me. But yeah, I appreciate the skepticism, because every time we see another announcement about an eVTOL, coming out 12 months from now or something like that, we're the same way, or a brand new company pop up and get a ton of funding for some outrageous claim. We're exactly the same way. That can't be possible, so thanks very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, wonderful job. Again, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Thanks so much, Edward Boyle and Stellar Aircraft. And we'll see you guys on Wednesday in 2 days. Don't forget to register. And Edward, I'll send a follow-up email. And yeah, thanks again, everybody, for attending. Have a great rest of your week.
Okay.
Bye.